Synctuition.
Listening to Synctuition for just 25 minutes gives you the same benefits as a 4-hour meditation. Now, how amazing is that?
Synctuition helps me to balance my body and mind on a daily basis. I was able to turn all my negative thoughts around so easily.
Synctuition is definitely the best audio relaxation program I've ever tried.
Welcome to Synctuition.
Oh my goodness. Seriously, I have to just do it. It's like I can tell myself I don't have to think about things that don't matter.
I was designed to do those things. How the hell does this guy know this about me?
It's impossible to not see.
When Dan read for my sister, she was like, he's psychic. She's like, how does he know that?
Yes.
She's like, it's human design, guys. Like, it's just a testimony of how legit it is.
Seriously, Danny was like FBI or CIA. He's like, how the hell does this guy know this about me?
Having my chart read, there were just thing after thing after thing that I was just like, wow, that's me.
This man is reading me and I've never met him before.
I was in one of the big emotional waves I've ever had in my life, and he saved my life.
It seems like everybody has the same reaction, that aha moment, and they want to find out more.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Human Design Advantage. My name is Jen, and decoding the matrix for us today is DannyGuru.
Hey everyone, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. How are you today?
I'm great. I love the intro, Jen.
Thank you. I am super excited to announce that we actually have a sponsor, which is Synctuition. And so, yeah, that's what helps monetize the show, guys. Our sponsorships, your views, sending the information out, and donations. That's kind of how we are running everything behind the scenes. So Synctuition is an app that I have been using for over a year now. And I'm a mindfulness practitioner. It's something that has helped me really balance the both left and the right hemisphere of my brain. And I think it's a really good to bring into today's topic, which is all about the gates of fear in our body graph. So
yeah, absolutely. And Jen, can I mix things up just a little bit? The purple slide, bring it up first. And
yes,
at
absolutely.
The beginning and at the end.
Give me 1 second, Dan, and I'll get that popped up on the screen. Before we get tapped into that, guys, you know exactly what to do. Make sure that you like, subscribe, hit that notification button, all those good things right down below. And then I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to get that up.
Yep. So this is, now we've spoke about this several times, so it's always worth repeating, basically. These awareness centers, the fears that we get. So what we're doing, we're decoding the matrix. Remember, this is a conspiracy to awaken. So everybody listening, awaken to the fact that you have these fears. Look on your body graph, look for these gate numbers, find them, and these fears sit there. They show up. They surprise you. They paralyze you is what they do.
And if you haven't had your body graph, guys, the link down below, make sure you do book a session with Dan so that he can help you out with this, because I'm really intrigued about today's topic.
Yep. You can text me your birth info, date, time, place, and email. What time zone you're in. I always have to re-ask that so I know how many hours ahead. I'm in Massachusetts, Eastern Standard Time. And your full name. Don't just give me a nickname or a first name. First and last, so I can have it for the chart.
Yes.
So what we're looking at here, I pulled this one up first because, and we'll let it sit as the last one before we go full screen. But look at the centers once again. These are our awareness centers. This whole body graph, this whole new 9-centered being that is the human in transitus, human Homo sapien in transitus. We're a transit life form. We're 9-centered. We're not 7-centered anymore. We have this perfect vehicle that's letting us walk around to experience all of this awareness. That's what the passenger is doing. And again, it looks like a vortex. Notice how it looks like it triangulates. The two blue centers on the bottom and the purple, light purplish one on top. So if you just pretend it's spiraling around in a circle, creating a vortex of awareness, we're surrounded by our awareness. Now, if they all did similar things, we'd have an easier time of it, but they serve specific functions. First thing we're going to deal with is the spleen, our oldest mammalian awareness, things that we share with reptiles. Technically we share it with bugs. Not quite, but down to reptiles for sure. And
can you explain to whoever's viewing real quick what exactly you mean by the passenger?
Yeah, so in human design, if you've looked up your body graph, you notice you have information. You have two sets of information that make up the body graph. There's always red lines and black lines, or however your program looks, or light or dark or whatever. You can tell there's two sets of information. They're surrounded by the planets. You see the planets and the numbers twice. What you're seeing at is the body has its own consciousness, its own actual awareness, and it's brought together through conception to allow our physical material to build up into a large enough being inside the womb such that it can invite in the passenger, the literal awareness that we think we are. We're so identified with the black lines in our body graph, and it's just a passenger. It's not here to navigate this material plane. It's here to be a witness, and it's here to take part in what mind does. It measures, it figures stuff out. But it doesn't figure stuff out and become the truth. The truth is given to us through the chemistries of our bodies, and that's what gets so confusing. The passenger is the black lines. It's held together through the magnetic monopole with us and the body, the fleshy body itself, to be this holistic being. That's why we get so confused. But I thought it was supposed to go this way. I thought this. I wasn't supposed to be afraid of that. I thought I took care of that detail. No, if you're entering into things not according to your strategy and authority, you're never going to take care of all the details. You're never going to have thought of all the things. And the things that you didn't think of are going to matter. When you enter in as yourself, the things you didn't think of don't matter. You have a strategy and authority for that. You have a strategy and authority for that. Are you able to pull up the two recordings I sent you?
Yes. Which one? Is there a specific one you want first?
Yeah, pull up the Chris Martin's Peak Prosperity one first, because before you pull it up, I'll set it up. Jen, I keep saying we're making it out into the matrix. We're making it out into the world. Mm-hmm. So this is the very first time I've heard someone keynote this exactly as it's supposed to be. I'm not sure if Chris is aware that he's doing it, but he finally locked on to something.
The idea that we don't have any bees out there is an emergency. The fact that we don't have a sustainable method of agriculture is an emergency. The fact that we don't have a plan for how we're going to deal with dwindling fossil fuels is an emergency. The fact that we have an out-of-control money printing system that's either expanding or collapsing is kind of an emergency. The fact, all kinds of things, right? We should make these national platforms, but it's not happening. Right now, whoever they are in the story, they're just interested in keeping us divided, having us talk about things that really don't matter fundamentally. And I think just that's part of the program.
Worrying about things that don't matter. I noticed that when he was talking, when I was
and it came out natural. He didn't know. He wasn't keynoting out of the book or remembering anything. I never read for Chris per se.
Nope.
And stuff. And this man is perfect. He's so good at what he does. So there was an echo on that. I'm not sure if you're aware.
No, I didn't hear an echo on that.
Okay, on my end I heard it. Maybe it's even on my phone. Now the next one sets up what we're about to do. This is Ra Uruhu just giving a quick shout out to the disorganizing things that go on, including fear.
Being yourself is more than just a kind of spiritual game. It's about accepting your form. And it's your form that gets sick and dies. It's your form that gets confused and suffers from fear. It's not these crystals. Forget all that. We live in a vehicle. To be yourself is to honor this vehicle. You honor the vehicle, everything works correctly.
There was supposed to be a picture on that. I recorded it with a picture.
Yeah, there is, but it did not come through with the video. Like it comes up as the his picture on the video, but not through the video. That makes sense.
Oh, when I played on my end, his picture showing at me the whole time. Now I know that little trick doesn't work.
It's
I wish
how I got it.
iPhone should have a little disclaimer. Hey, this ain't gonna work. We're so smart at everything else. Come on, guys. So
Mercury retrograde too, so who knows?
Yeah. Well, what he was pointing out was literally honor the vehicle. This is what we, all this time we spend trying to have inner peace, all this time we spend meditating, practicing mindfulness, working out, jogging, whatever it is we're doing with our bodies that puts us in a certain state of mind. Take that to the next step. Recognize you're on the right track. It's all the right thing to do. Just recognize that we owe our lives to this this meat package we walk around in, the vehicle. Yes. I keep calling it.
Savannah said our bodies have intelligence. It's exactly right.
Right, and the intelligence speaks. It speaks very loudly, but we have to get over the claptrap of the mind in order to hear it. Otherwise, we don't get the life we live. We live out the fear Ra just spoke about. We think about things that don't matter, which is what they, quote, want us to do, is to think about stuff that doesn't matter and live out all of these fears. They're playing on our emotions and our fears. It's awful. So, does the next slide show up?
Which one? Well, those were at the end. Do you want me to go to the beginning?
Yep. There she blows. So, fear gates. This is the spleen, and these are the 7 gates of the spleen. And the basic fears: inadequacy, the fear of the future, the past. That word guilt, I'm gonna actually change that up a little bit. 32 fears failing. 28 things are hard. That was part of the individual way that we did the melancholy last week. Life is difficult. 28 is in the individual, and then 18 is always perfectionism. 18s can seem like they're trying to seek perfection and stuff. It's not their fault. I think the next slide, hopefully I put these in order. Okay, look, I like this one. Lindsay, I'll give a shout out to lindsayharper.com. I snagged this slide I snagged from online, and it looks chaotic, right? I wanted it to look like a mess. So 48, I'm at the very top. I'm not enough, because that's the inadequacy. 57, I fear the future, the fear of tomorrow. What's going to happen next? I don't know. Sudden fear. Now, these are mortal fears. All these fears. Yeah.
So would the people have that if the gate is defined, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
And as a nuance, if it's in a defined center, like as the whole center is lit up, then that fear is always there. And it's always present. Yeah, it's always available, always there. If it's in an open center, the fear becomes more of an intermittent thing. Someone has to turn it on.
This would be classified, guys, as a defined center if it is colored in, and this is an open center if it does not have anything in it.
Right. Open. It's open and receptive. So you'll be either open and receptive to the fear, or you'll be having it as a part of your life force that's there. And what we're trying to do today is get people to unhitch their wagon from living that stuff out. Quit it already. Knock it off. We don't need to live out the fear. We need to have it.
It is so important that we chime in on this, because one of the things that I have been paying attention to is the energies, and what happens above. Obviously, if planets are playing a part in our human design, it's also going to play a part in how it's going to affect us. So we've got so much planetary stuff going on that it is most likely going to be activating your gates of fear and magnifying them as well.
Over and
So-
over, Jen, over and over. And as these planets move around, go retrograde, go forward, I mean, everyone realizes the planet itself isn't going retrograde. Us in relation to it appears retrograde. That's what makes a planet go retrograde. But it still affects us because as it goes retrograde, it starts activating that gate it went backwards into.
I have 57 and 44, which is just amazing why I said we needed mindfulness.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You have a 44 too. That's right. It's in a defined channel. So you've got a better handle on that fear in a way because you've lived it out as an activation. I have it in an open center. It shows up. And when I live it out, it becomes a memory that I hang on to through all of time. Now I just have to recognize my mind's not going to stop hanging on to that through all the time. I just don't have to make decisions based on it. You know, so, oh my God, I'm afraid. Well, you know, hop on your podcast and zip it, Dan. It came, it went. It's supposed to pour through. We just got to get used to the program that's running inside of us. It's genetic. We have no choice. You know, get used to the program. Hey, listen, a little kid learns to play Spybot or some really cool game, and they're like 5 years old and they're masters of their reality. You know, we can do the same thing. Those things are complicated, right? Have you ever seen some of those video games these kids do? They're amazing. It's like, what? They got little alien fingers. You know, it's like something has possessed them. But no, it's just a knack because they're kids. They're innocent. Get back to your innocence. You'll stop fearing your gates. That's the bottom line.
Savannah says she has 5 out of the 7 fear spleen gates.
Oh, that's a lot of action, Savannah. Yeah, that's right. You do. So, and hers is defined as well. So those things are always on. So Savannah, I don't know if she'll chime in later. If you'll chime in later, Savannah, just point out to us that how much they have or haven't affected you. So 57, fear of the future. 44, I'm carrying many fears from the past. I just moved down one. So again, I love this. It's sort of handwritten and it looks good, typed in handwritten arrows. So I'm fear of the past. It's a fear of extinction. 50 is like fear of too much commitment, too much responsibility, fear of marriage, having children, taking on too much responsibility, and many other things. The job is too much. The whatever, the chores are too much. I don't want to buy this house. It's too much to fix up. You name it. 32 is in this very powerful instinctual stream. It's tribal. And it wants to rise up. It's got gate 54 looking at it, and it's the pressure to expand yourself. It's a pressure to be driven, to rise up the ranks, to move that material success of the tribe so that the tribe has enough to eat and doesn't fail. So gate 32 is it's a kind of a lack mentality, a fear of not enoughness. And the fears that there's not enough resources for everyone, ultimately the fear of tribal failure. You take that to its end in 32 and 44 is the fear of failure into the tribe has been wiped out. You know, that we're all dead, basically. These things are, again, the spleen is our oldest mammalian awareness. And so what are mammals concerned with? Not dying, you know. And as soon as they know they're not dead, they go back to grazing. You know,
it's the fear of death that drives.
Yeah, the fear of the ultimate catastrophic failure is, oops, I'm dead. You know, or worse, my tribe is dead, my whole family's, or the species even. Oops, species got wiped out. You know, too many fingers on too many red buttons.
Yes.
So, and then 28 is that there's no purpose, and 18 is this fear of authority because it must challenge things. And if you scoot to the next slide. This is what, so the spleen, these are the gates of the spleen. It sort of animates it for you. So if you have any of these gates defined, these are the fears that you're having. What they're supposed to, if you have a gate 32, fear of failure, you're not supposed to sit there and live in your fear of failure and spend your whole day figuring out how not to fail. You're supposed to have that and then allow your strategy and authority to respond to that, to initiate something. To allow something in, to recognize what's going on next, to literally reflect back, what does that really mean? And then go about your day, go about your activity. If you truly have a fear of failure, you'll stop fearing the failure as soon as you start, me, I have a fear, I'm concerned about the food. So I start planting a garden. Well, I'm not planting a garden. I'm not afraid. If I sit and stew on it with a cup of coffee and I just stare into the fear, I stay there all day. It colors my day. It makes me not go out and do the things I would have done. Suddenly anxiety comes in, and the mind captures this thing. Remember these frequencies. So this spleen has a frequency. That frequency is spontaneous, in the moment to moment survival awareness. So it comes, it goes. If you don't hear it, you miss it. So you got to just be aware. Oh, I'm concerned about something. So gate 48 is a big one, this fear of inadequacy, that they're just not adequate enough to come up with the formulas ultimately that will preserve the collective, that will preserve our way of life. It's a deep fear that they're not good enough. And it happens sharply in the moment. And that gate 18 down at the bottom, this fear of authority, it's the fear that basically the authority doesn't have the right patterns. It's the need to challenge the authority in case it doesn't have the right patterns, the right logic, hasn't the right way to do things, or is doing things in such a way that all of these other fears start to come true.
Would that be an anarchist gate?
It could be if it's a third line profile, for sure. If it's in the third line. Oh, and it can be an anarchist at any point in time, because if the fear of that authority becomes too great, our splenic, tribal, American fear of our governmental authority is driving us to challenge this. Gate 18 is alive and well in the ethos. And I should have looked up the date of that show that Chris was doing to see if Gate 18 was activated by one of the planets. Could have been there. Because all the planets can activate a gate, and then we're living with it for the length that it's activating that gate. That's why the far out planets are so important, because they stay in a gate for months or a year.
Yes, very, very long time.
Pluto will stay in a gate, let's see, 265 years to go around the Earth about. So Pluto will stay in a gate for 3 years, 3 to 4 years, potentially. So
and they play a part.
Absolutely. So all of this fear, you're not afraid of tomorrow. You had a fear that was an awareness. You're not afraid of the past. You had a fear that became, oh my God, and you're here to literally listen to it, not live it out throughout the day. Same thing with responsibility. If you're a generator and you want to know, should I say yes to the question, the I do, if you want to say I do or not for a marriage, have someone ask you questions. You want to get married? Mostly. Are you sure? No. Do you love her? Yeah. Is today a good day to get married? I don't know. This is a person who's about to get married and they're not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the spouse to be takes that personally, well, the wedding's off.
Every bride to be is going to be pulling their groom's chart.
Yes, pull your groom's chart.
Do they have a 50?
Yeah, well, and if and how to ask them the questions. And how to ask them the questions. 2/3 of them you'll be able to ask yes, no questions.
Yes, no questions.
Yep. 10% of you guys, you'll be able to ask them to inform you how do they feel. You'll be able to engage a conversation, right? Mm-hmm. 22% of them you'll be able to invite and recognize that they may have fears going on, and invite them to speak about it. And suddenly out will start coming their truth. Mm-hmm. Simple mechanisms. So all this stuff happens in the moment, right? Like fire, lighting a match, thing caught fire, lighting gasoline on fire happens right away. And this frequency is spontaneous in the moment. It comes, it goes. Mm-hmm. Although it doesn't go all the way, because if you go to the next center, I just have one slide for the mind, the ajna. All the collective individual fear gates. There's no tribe up here. It's important to worth notice. So this thing ignores all the tribal.
7, 11, and 43.
Yep. And so this is the Arjuna Center. Again, our mental awareness. The frequency of this bad boy is over all of time. So these fears from the spleen and the ajna have a special relationship because spleen was there first, and then around 100,000 years ago, between 90 and 110,000 years ago, as we started to undergo a mutation where we could articulate more, mind started to, our larynx actually dropped, Jen. We were aware of this. They dropped and we were allowed to start to be able to articulate more, articulate better, actually articulate fully, speak. And with that, the mind started to grow its mental cognitive awareness that it can come up with concepts. The fears aren't concepts. The fears are run, duck, jump, hide, eat, whatever, protect the baby, make the baby, all these things. Mind is like, no, concept, I got this. And I always go back to the same one. Somewhere along the way, a bunch of cavemen, somebody noticed if I sharpen this stick, it's better. That's a concept.
Yes, it is.
Just plain a concept. And then they start figuring out all kinds of ways to sharpen sticks. Then they figured out ways to hurl those things. Next thing you know, you have a bow and arrow. All concepts. Archers, take your places. So these fears, these mental awareness fears, as soon as they get strong, as soon as this little harp is plucked, any of these strings get plucked, the mind hangs on to them over all of time. And so we're always trying to get rid of the conditioning that we've had. And what's the word I'm looking for? It's not mindfulness. It's when you're trying to go in and pull up past trauma to try and release it. There's no release.
Shadow work.
Yeah, sure. But how about this? I've heard this: pull up past trauma to release past trauma. You can see the past trauma, but the releasing of it is actually done with the awareness of recognizing it's not there to stay. So I guess that would be a way. However, mind doesn't stop having remembered it.
No, it does not.
No, why should it? Its frequency is over all of time. It might need that thing a year down the road or 10 years down the road. It'll come back in a moment and suddenly serve a new concept.
You're exactly right. And I've been thinking about when you say awareness kills it, and that is part of the shadow work that I do, is one, bringing awareness to it. And then the more that you do look at it, whatever the trauma is or wherever it's coming from, because you're right, it does trigger fears and stuff like that. The more you bring the awareness to it, the more that the energetic charge will dissipate.
Yep, literally, because seeing it kills it, like you're saying. Awareness makes it diminish and puts it in its proper perspective. So the two, notice something. The reason I picked this slide is because at the very top, notice it goes from number 4 to 17, and look on the picture. Remember in an earlier episode last season, I talked about how our awareness crosses over.
Yes.
So gate 4 crosses over to 17. Our mind works in a way that mixes things up. It's like kneading bread. It's one of those bread machines that's constantly kneading the bread until it's ready. So we're always mixing up our stuff. So gate 4, this fear of chaos, this gate is literally here to understand and know stuff. It's here to come up with formulas. Let me pull up my book here. Got the wrong one. So in these formulas, whereas gate 4, it's called youthful folly. It's the gate of formalization. And it's not only the fear of chaos, it's the fear that you won't be able to figure out what to do logically, that the fears from the spleen present too much of a challenge and you can't figure it out. So the whole world comes to a stop. The phones don't work, the food stopped being delivered, the trains all shut down. That's that kind of chaos. It's like, oh my God, so if this fear grips you suddenly, it's more mundane, the chaos in your own life, just the chaos of getting out of the house and getting to work on time. Suddenly you're afraid that you did not make the right formula because you forgot to put gas in your tank. That was part of the formula. And normally logical steps would have had all that taken care of or what have you. And suddenly on your way to work, you start to run out of gas. So 17 is this fear of challenge. And it becomes really deep because its mirror is gate 18 in the spleen. And it's not just the fear of challenge because this thing has opinions. It's called the following. And it's they're based on facts, but it's the fear that your opinions will be challenged, that sometimes you won't even share them. It's the need to have all the details that back it up. And 17 doesn't have all the details. It's got a great concept of time. It's got a great concept of time, but it's not always on time because gate 17 stands by itself. If you've got gate 62 below it, then you'll have all the details, or at least you'll be more likely to, and the chaos will seem like less. But if you have just a gate 4 and a gate 17, yeah, the chaos that you can't formulate an opinion. And it's the fear that after you formulate an opinion that other people will challenge it, and you'll feel like you look stupid, and you won't necessarily have the details to back it up, and then you fear that your timing wasn't right. I wasn't in the right time to say my opinion, and now it's being challenged, and I look like an idiot. And now that fear gets the mind all of time, so that moment gets tucked away and held on to through all of time. Remember that time when I was 18?
That's the memo that the secretary, that's the shitty memo that the secretary keeps giving.
Yeah.
Remember how I was telling you about the other day?
Yes.
That's where that bitch is getting
that bitch is sitting in gate 4 and 17. Stop pumping out them memos. You don't even know what the hell you're talking about. Get over to, I'm going to do the bottom 2 now.
Okay.
Because that stays collective. So that was a collective stream of awareness. All the stuff needs to be shared. And notice that there's an open head center above this. And so how does the collective machine and apparatus fear us the easiest is exactly what was said on the clip. Dividing us, making us think about too many things that really just basically don't matter. And suddenly, if you are really thinking about too many things and thinking about things that just truly don't matter, you're going to have all of these fears in spades. They're going to show up over and over again, and none of them are here for you. None of them are here to be lived out. They're here to be recognized.
Savannah has a great question. She said, so would fear gates in the mind stay longer and harder to let go of those fears?
They never get let go of as it relates to the actual fear. It's once it's stuck there, it's a memory. And so yes.
And then limitation about ourselves, especially for a mental projector.
Absolutely. They could feel incredibly limited because a mental projector will have this head center turned on, or excuse me, at least this ajna turned on, or maybe both. And so that means it'll always be on, working away and turned in on itself. Don't forget, so these fears liberate us when we just recognize that they pass through.
And having those tools to liberate yourself.
Yes, it liberates us when it just passes through. I'm still concerned I don't have the right formula to survive whatever's coming in our great reset future, with new bird flu showing up and all the stuff we know they're up to.
Yeah, I have 11 and 43.
I don't hang on to them.
Oh my God, fear of darkness. I do have fear of darkness.
Yeah, so I'm getting to those 2 next. So the next collective, so this was the logical shared stream of awareness, logic, looking into the future, trying to help leadership plan into the future. Someone's got these all miswired in Klaus Schwab's brain. I think they performed an operation on all those billionaires and rewired their stuff so that they don't know how to think into the future very well. But 47 to 11. So notice that crosses over again, the mixing pot.
Mm-hmm. I have 47 and 11.
Yeah. 47 is deep, pressurized. It's coming from the pressure from above to think about the past and go through all the things. And it's this deep fear that there's a futility to there's too many things. You and I both have this gate, Jen. In fact, we have this channel, 4764. And it's abstract. It's abstract. It doesn't know anything. It's abstract. It's pondering what could be this, what could be that. It's putting together 1,000 little film clips and making up something and then unarranging them and putting them back together and unarranging them, putting back together again. It never stops. It's not there to stop. Now, if we latch onto that, suddenly it's like my thinking has left me feeling with this sense of futility, absolute just futility. I don't know. I don't know how to put it all together, and it begins this. It's. Really
I don't attach myself to those ideas. Like I understand exactly what happens in my head, and when I realized that was happening, I I took a step back. That's where meditation comes in. That's where mindfulness comes in, because it's just thoughts. And the more that you attach yourself to those thoughts, that's where more energy comes, or the energetic cord. And then you're on a downward spiral, because whatever movie was playing in your head, which is just like a flip book.
Yes.
It's that's all it is. It's just a flip book. Like that's, to be honest, that's what helped me start doing that. Was when I was a child, I loved those flip books, but I would just sit there and watch. So I just sit there and watch, and I don't energetically attach what flip book is flipping in my head.
What trip is it trying to have you be afraid of now?
Correct.
So listen to your fear of futility. It comes, and let it rip through, and suddenly you'll have a new mental awareness and a new cognitive process. This is all about cognition. We're here to be cognitive. We're here advancing awareness through our ability to come up with concepts and be aware how to survive in the now and hang on to these concepts through all of time. That's why we keep getting so smart. It's also why we keep appearing so stupid, because we hang on to the wrong things through all of time, rather than letting it just pass through. Mm-hmm. Every meditation coach that tried to get me to meditate said, you can't stop the thoughts, they would say. They were right. Yep. You let them pass through, they would tell me.
Scrolling banner.
Yeah, just let them
that
go through.
Scrolling LED thing that you see.
Yes.
Let it scroll on by.
Let it scroll on by. That's actually the best description I've heard yet, Jen. I just had the coolest little epiphany, because I always thought it was like a thing would show up. I'm like, things aren't showing up. They just keep rolling through. So
no, it's just like the scrolling banner that we have down below.
Right. I love that. Actually helps. Maybe I'll be able to meditate now. It's hard for defined heads center people to meditate easily, or it certainly can be. It would show up more commonly that a defined head ajna would find it difficult to settle into easily meditating, because we got.
Are you open or defined?
I'm defined. I got the same channel you do. Yep. We have synchrony there. So futility, nothing. It's not futile. It's just a fear. It's there to come in and go. Now, mind you, this is our body giving this to us. Our body gives us this. We think our mind gave it to us. Our passenger came up with that. The body's chemistry allowed stuff from the deep gray area of our mind to literally come out and give us this sense of futility in a moment. Okay. Maybe it's futile. I don't know. Ponder that some more and go about your day. Stop living your life based on it. Don't worry about the anxiety that comes into your body. It'll certainly pass as soon as you start seeing it. Now, if things are futile in gate 47, where it receives the pressure to start the abstract process of thinking any old thing abstractly until it comes into form, gate 11 is responsible for jumbling that around and spitting it out into an idea. And if you've got no ideas, that feels like darkness. Gate 11, it's called the gate of peace. This gate of ideas, this fear of darkness, it's having new ideas to share. It's this mental anxiety about not having new stimulating ideas or enough new things that it seems like are worth sharing. Feeling like you can't join the team because your ideas aren't being recognized.
I do this all the time when I go to write a post. I can't tell you how many posts that I have deleted because I have thought to myself that is not worth sharing.
It's not worth sharing.
It's not worth sharing.
Well, yeah. If it feels futile, it's not worth sharing. If you got other mental gates going on in your body graph, it suddenly you're not sure. And suddenly, when it gets to its most extreme, things go dark. Think of who's going to speak if their ideas can't be heard. They're just going to shut up. You got a kid that went nonverbal. Something like this might be going on in them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I get that, that's when people really know. I will
zip your lip. She just stopped talking. And it's a fear that that darkness will continue, that this darkness won't have any more. It'll never, the light will never come back to it. That it's the fear that, because the mind hangs on to it over all of time. Mind is like, it'll be this way forever. You know, it's just, I'm screwed. the Borg cube is going to come pick me up and say resistance is futile. That's Star Trek. So the fear of the darkness of your ideas go dark. And then you've got this individual in the middle. And we dealt with the melancholy of this last week. So the melancholy is still there. And gate 24 is under incredible pressure to know. The gate of knowing. It knows stuff. It takes what was unknown and turns it into a pattern that is knowable. Let me read this. Gate, where is it? Gate 24, the return. Yes, it's this gate of rationalizing things, creating a rationale, returning to the process of, can I make sense of this? Is this thing something I can know, or is it something I can't know? And it's afraid of ignorance. It's afraid it can't know. That's the fear. It's afraid that it just can't know. And then it goes crazy, returning to try and know. And the gates, it's right in the name. It's about returning to the thing, whatever it is. Knowing the answer in a pulse. Mental anxiety that you will never know the answer. That inspiration will never come. That you won't be able to explain your knowing. It's mental anxiety about thinking you'll never know. Well, follow your strategy and authority. Do you need to know? Is it something that matters?
Right.
What were they thinking about me? What are they thinking about me? What were they thinking?
Does that matter? It does not.
Does that matter? It doesn't.
Does not.
They thought you were.
I have 43. So that's one thing that I really had. That is the one thing I've had to work on, was that it does not matter. What other people think of me does not matter. And I had a download on that, and Robbie actually made a meme out of it. And that was, I was basing my self-worth on another's calcified pineal gland.
Right. Oh, there you go. Yeah. And even if their pineal gland isn't calcified, you're still doing it based on another's not self.
Yeah. There you go. That's another meme.
A calcified not self being. I love it. Take them to the dental hygienist. They'll scrape it off with one of those little things. So get your pineal gland to the whatever they call it. So that was funny. Excuse me while we open your head and scrape off the calcification.
We have alternate ways of clearing that out, guys. If you want more information on that, please drop a comment down below. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I wonder if they can do that. Is it on the pineal gland? Is it calcification that you can actually see? I wonder if it can be.
Yes, it is actual calcification that you can see. And there are ways that you can do it. One of the steps is to stop drinking the tap water.
Yeah. I get all my water cleaned.
Yes.
And then, so once the ignorance is too much and you figure you can't know, and it's gripped you because the frequency of this bad boy is through all of time. And remember all the spleen fears that are just keep pulsing us. They keep knocking at the door. It's like someone keeps knocking on the door. And so it just adds to this. It amplifies up here in the mind because the mind hangs on to it over all of time. This is where our mental torture happens, literally. This is the source of all of our anxiety, because it's an anxiousness, a mental anxiety over. All of these things could say mental anxiety over fear of chaos, fear of challenge. In Gate 43's case, it just wants to explain stuff. I mean, it's got insights ripping through it. It went through the pressure system. Gate 24 cut through the crossing of the 47 and the 4 that go to the 17 and the 11. That's crossing over, and Gate 24 cuts right through that straight down to 43. And 43 is just there to come up with concepts. It's the gate of insights, and it has great insights and sudden knowing. It's like mental knowing in a pulse. It's suddenly there. I love this Gate 43 breakthrough.
I do too.
Yeah, I have it too. It's the gate of insights. And so when does an insight come, Jen? It's in a pulse.
It's in a pulse. And then when it comes, I know.
Right. And then I know. That's the keynote. I know. So you've got this gate, you speak in a voice sometimes that says, I know. Doesn't mean we're right. It means that's the energy coming out of us. So, and that's fine.
I'm laughing because
right. Knowing is not meant to be proven right necessarily. Knowing is meant to be the energy that comes out. And then if the concept is strong, it will show up as reliable. And then you know. And so, but the knower does know in that moment. It's in that moment, and they know. And that's a powerful energy, because very often they actually know. They totally know. You get a not self-knower, and they definitely don't know, and project out that they know. You know, welcome to
the both.
Yeah, and welcome to the chaos of the collective above us. That is, you know, the billionaire elite class. They all think they know. So, what do you know? You don't know shit. So this the gate of insight, and these insights are powerful because they show up in a moment, like creation itself. They weren't there, suddenly they're there. Again, guys, that's not your personality's consciousness giving that to you. That's your personality's consciousness witnessing it. That's your body's consciousness physically giving it to you. And the personality's witnessing it. But the personality keeps thinking it thinks it takes that on to its own self. That it was its idea. That it was its knowing. It's not. The body gave it to us. The chemistry of the deep gray area of the brain, which is part of the body, just comes cycling forward. Because remember, it hangs on to it over all of time. And bam, from nothing comes something. So inside of our brains is this creation factory. We are creative. We are co-creative. You know, we are an aspect. So this fear of rejection, it's having unique perspectives that are so unique. It's this mental anxiety that your ideas are just too weird and that they'll be rejected. It's the need to make sense, and it's need to make sense that empowers others. And it's need to make sense to others. It's not good enough to make sense to its own self. That's just the voice in the wilderness. It needs to then make sense to the other. That completes the circuit. That completes it. And when it can't make sense to other, that's why in the book, the keynote is genius to freak. But it's really, it feels weird. It doesn't know, because it can't know if it's going to get that thing out until it's in the moment. So in the moment, you know, you spit it out, the other gets it. Oh, that's so rewarding. You know, oh, that's the best. You know, that's two lovers having a conversation, you know, intimate conversation where they're both getting each other. These are insights coming out in the moment that become made aware through the returning of the concepts that show up in I know. I know exactly how you feel, honey, one would say to the other. You know, and in that moment, you know, they do.
They do.
Yeah, they
Savannah,
Go ahead.
Savannah has some things that she said. One, become the observer of your thoughts and don't attach to them. And I think that's very important. We'll talk more on meditation later on before we wrap up. And she says she has an open ajna head and loves meditating. It's easy for her to meditate. She's heard that about open head centers.
Mm-hmm.
Go. What was that?
It's true. Yeah.
So ones that are closed, it's harder to learn how to meditate?
Well, as a general rule, you'll notice if you take 10,000 people and one is all open, and the other 10,000 are all closed, you'll find a huge bell curve where the easier side will be the ones who are open. It's such an individual, unique thing that there'll always be some with defined centers that can meditate, but they did something. They became aware of a knowing in the moment at some point, hung on to it through all of time, and then figured out how to meditate with that.
And she also put, so is there kind of a battle between the design red side and the personality black sign of the charts? And then she put gates.
Yeah, the battle royale, Savannah. I'm guessing that there's a lot of kids screaming in the background, or we would see your shining face here. So A, we love you, and B, yeah, it's the battle royale. It really is. The whole idea of getting people read and the whole idea of keeping going through this is so people can start to recognize that our body has been given a mind of its own, a full-on mind of its own, and it's aware, and it's giving us thousands of little chemistries day in and day out, and all we have to do is start paying attention to them. There's like every body graph and every person can have at least 10 or 12 chemistries they can become hyper aware of easily, just by surrender and relinquish control that you think you're in control. You ever notice, Jen, how I keep saying they think this, or because you think you're in control? And I always put, because you think if that's the personality. As we start to wake up more, it turns into, well, I think. And then when you really have got a handle and you've been through this process a little bit, and you start to realize it fully, it's just I am. And it's not I think, or I think, it's just I. Because it's the personality that thinks, and it thinks it's thinking, but it's the body that's delivering the chemistry. The personality is just like a bobbing little buoy on the ocean, bobbing around going, I don't know, the body gave me something. So I think I'm going to make this out of it. I think we're going to have to do this. That's not true. The body just gave you chemistry. Listen to it. If you're emotional and you don't know what to do, there's no truth in the now. Got to wait. Got to wait on that bad boy. And now you can know. Waiting's great. Active state of awareness. That's waiting. It's in the world. Active state of awareness. That's what waiting is. So no need to have the fear stay with you through all of time and affect you through all of time. It's just there to make you aware in the moment. And
it's like a signpost. It's like
it's a signpost.
Not a signpost, but is it a signpost?
These are all signposts.
Okay.
Yeah, not just our strategy and authority. That's the main signpost or of the main signpost, but they're all signposts. They're designed to come in, give us this moment in time, and then be gone so that we have it, but not all the crap that goes with it. Are you about to say something, Savannah?
Oh, okay. So I didn't realize this. So is it almost like the red design part, the gates that are red and on the left side of the chart? That's the body. And, but then the black side, the personality, all those gates is, it kind of fights and it's a battle between those. It's almost like the personality tries to make sense of the red gates that play out in life.
And it can't make sense of them. It has to experience them.
I'm laughing because this does sound like something like I don't want to say split personalities, but it is like a split personality because I talk to myself on certain things. We talked about that. It was the secretary in your head, and I tell that bitch to shut up.
Yeah.
So that's who keeps giving me the crappy memos that are feeding on this fear. So it is. I like how Savannah brought that out, was the personality.
It is.
And then the body.
The body keeps giving what's true, and the passenger is just there witnessing it. But the thing is, we're still dealing off of our old seven-centered conditioning where this mind of ours did take authority. Incorrectly, but it took authority. I think this, I think that, and it measured. When we get used to it, we get used to mind measuring on our behalf rather than against what our body is giving it for chemistry. I don't like that feeling, so mind thinks it's going to measure out a cocktail of drugs to take to stop that feeling. Yeah. Measure, mind, the beginning of mind, to measure the Maya, to measure everything. Mind is a measuring factory. It's great. I love mind. It does so much stuff. It got us real good measurements to where the planets are such that we can have this knowledge. It measures everything, Jen. It measures everything. And then it thinks it's in charge. It's not. And this union of a personality that is a crystal of consciousness that is brought into the body after the body's already 2/3 made. That making is made at the moment of conception when the design crystal is invited into the conception process, boom, and it goes to work and it's busy making that fleshy form. Now, the body's chemistry makes the flesh. A design crystal doesn't physically make the flesh. It just informs it. It informs it as it's being made biochemically inside the mother's womb. At about 6 months, the neocortex is formed enough and it can start to invite the personality in. It's not even part of the process. And at the time of birth, we have the measurements and the personality sits above the crown. It's not even invited into the body. It's not even part of the body as for real. At least the design crystal of consciousness, this consciousness that the body has, it's filtering the neutrino stream. It's constantly giving us our awareness. And this design crystal literally has been there the whole time. It's part of the creation of the fetus into the whole body, into what's about to be birthed. The personality isn't even invited into the body. It sits on top.
Dan, so just to clarify, so all the gates that are on the in the red under the design on the left side of the body graph, those are 3 months before birth, right?
Yep.
Those are all the transits that were in the sky 3 months before your birth.
Yes,
correct?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Those are the that's right. 88 degrees of the sun. 88 degrees of the sun. It's like it's just it's a magic number. 88 degrees of the sun. Does that have any significance in numerology, Jen? Does anybody know? Sounds cool.
Well, 8's my life path number.
I like 8.
Yes, eight is a significant number. It does, it's like the middle point. It's infinity.
It's infinity. If you turn it on its side, it's infinity twice.
Cool.
Now that's a neat concept, right? 2 times infinity.
And then also so all the gates that are on the right side of the body graph under personality and are black, those are the transits that were in the sky on the moment of your birth, correct? So it's the red ones are 3 months prior your birth, and the black is the moment of birth.
So notice what's happening, and so the personality consciousness is invited into the body during the during the process, as there's a neocortex, we're able to have a self-reflected consciousness. That's what's going on. But as it's being informed by the design crystal the whole time, it's still filtering the whole neutrino field, and it's a whole. Notice the design crystal grabs its differentiation way before the personality crystal. It wants a head start. It's like, listen, buddy, like the secretary in your head. It's like, listen, dude, I'm in charge. I'm fully fixed in place. I'm going to give you all the chemistry. Don't think you're in charge. You're an armchair quarterback. You showed up at the very end. You showed up Monday morning to try and say how the Saturday night football didn't go so well. You're a Monday morning quarterback. You're a backseat driver. You just stepped into the play. We've been here the whole 9 months. We're in charge. We formatted the chemistry in your body to give you everything you need. So quit holding on to these fears through all of time. Allow them. They'll be there, ready to roll. 10 years later, a fear will come back and it will inform you, and it'll help you make a great decision, through your strategy and your authority. You just don't need to hold on to it for all 10 of those years.
Yes.
You can have it once and then one time 10 years later, and it works out great. We call that a reflex, maybe. So yeah, that's you got it, Savannah. It's this battle royale. The red is in charge. The mind is what our outer authority ends up being able to speak. And here in the toy box, the Arjuna Center is where it all gets jumbled up so much because of that frequency, all of time. All of time. Now, if we go to anything else you want to ask before we go on to the emotions?
No.
Let's fire away. Next slide. I like this one because it's, again, nice and busy, because that's what goes on. So this emotional solar plex center, it's an awareness center. Again, it's the third one. It's now the most powerful awareness center because it's the loudest, because it's a motor, meaning it's got a motor function. It can pour energy and fuel onto the way of the life. It motorizes us. And it's the motor that works in a wave. So we have a blip, that's the spleen, happens in a blip. We have all of time. It's like flat line all the time. It's always there. It never stops. And then we have a wave process up and down. So these are a lot of different ways. If you think about it, it's point, line, and plane in math. It's, in a way, it's 3 different ways to measure awareness. We didn't have this before, and we're just getting used to it now. That's why I create so much chaos. So it's the center for emotional intelligence, this social awareness that we have, lovingness, feelings, mood, sensitivity, emotional creativity, want, desire. It wants stuff. It's our spirit. The spirit is waking up in gate 55, guys. It's literally waking up in us, and it's individual. It's not collective. It's not tribal. It's for us. We're all supposed to have the spirit. And then as we commune together, the spirit, if everyone was awake, the spirit of humanity could probably tunnel upward right through our atmosphere and shoot out into the sky for all I know. I don't know. I am not aware of what that would look like, but I sure would love to see it. Right? 7 point something billion souls suddenly aware at the same moment. That might actually be able to penetrate something. That might have motion that goes somewhere. I don't know, but it's for the individual more than anything. But we're still living out the old way that hangs on to anything in a frequency that's not just up and down. Up and down is just right now. It's still a lot like the spleen, but it's aware over time, up and down, over time as it moves along. Mind is just a constant all on over all of time, picking up hits from the spleen that like ping it and hit, fear of failure, fear of death, fear of no purpose, fear of inadequacy. Mind says, oh, I better hold on to all that shit. And while I'm at it, there's chaos, there's futility, and no one likes my ideas. I don't sound smart. I'm inadequate. I'm going to be rejected. I feel like an idiot, you know, and emotions pick that up and they're like, oh God, this wave sucks. It feels real bad. I feel like I'm awful. And suddenly the spirit can't come out. So spirit awareness, this consciousness, it's not a mystical thing. We all know what spirit is. You know what? Let's go around this little circle we have here between the three of us. I'm just going to say what I think spirit is, and then you guys go next. I think spirit is when humanity knows that it feels like its cup is full or feels like its cup is empty. And it's not something I can really put words to very easily, but I just call it our own spirit, and it's a want that we have that fulfills us. Jen, what do you, when you hear spirit, is it?
I would say that that's a pretty good definition. For me, it's my higher self being connected with that spirit. When I am connected with me, then everything on the outside feels as a whole. But most people are disconnected from their spirit. Right.
Or moments of disconnection, enough moments to where it feels like it's always that way.
Yes.
Even if they were connected thousands of times after that.
Mm-hmm.
They still give credence to the thing they held on to through all of time, which was the one moment they weren't connected. And then
yes,
they think
exactly. Yes,
right.
Exactly.
It's like, dude, I've been watching. You got it right 10,000 times today. You got it wrong about 500. You know, so that's a good day. Savannah, spirit. When I say spirit,
I think of like passion, and then also like a sense of like abundance. I think sometimes the gate 55, they also said it can be like a spirit of abundance.
Yes.
My husband actually has gate 55, and it's part of his carnation cross. And so it's interesting, like, to learn about how they name these gates in these channels and things like that, and then to kind of see how it gets expressed, like in my husband's personality. And gate 55, he's always loved the story of like an underdog.
Yes.
And so he loved, like, that feeds his soul, is to learn about these people who, you know, overcome. And so that's kind of how I think of the gate of spirit, gate 55. But I don't know.
Abundance.
I like that.
That's
I have gate 55.
That's its name in Savannah. Think about it, the names. These names are 5,400 years old. I mean, the essence of the names, but mostly the actual words that they use, we carried them forward. The I Ching from over 5,000 years ago called hexagram number 55 abundance, or not. Go figure. And the abundance isn't material. It's the abundance of our spirit. When the spirit is abundant, the material way and the material path lays out before us, and our bodies do the work needed so that we can all eat and have shelter and commune. It's not that difficult. You know, I should take that back. It appears to be pretty freaking difficult, but it's not supposed to be. And the
one other thing, Dan, I remember you telling me about my husband's chart, how he has gate 55, and you told me that I guess people who have that gate, if they don't feel passionate about what they're doing, then they won't succeed at it. And so, like, it's essential for someone who has that one to, like, love and be passionate about what they're doing, and then it will translate into abundance.
And into abundance, material.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But it's their spirit first. Notice spirit first, material second.
Mm-hmm.
We got that turned around on our planet. It's material first, and that makes our spirit. I call bullshit.
Yeah, that is bullshit.
Yes. It's spirit first, material second. And Savannah, I also remember pointing out that I remember I gave you guys an experiment to try at home together and have fun with it. Right? I forgot what it was. It was did it work?
No, honest, seriously, Dan, like what you shared with me and with my husband about this part of his design and his personality, like it made so much sense. Like from the past to the present. So it's like I see and approach it totally differently than how I used to, because I used to get annoyed with it. Like, but now I'm like, oh, okay, like now I know what to do to help you be successful and like support you how you need supported. And so yeah, Dan, you were like a lifesaver. Just no
Thank
shit.
you,
Yeah.
too. You're always saving my life. So synchronize this electromagnetic resonance with the field of the heart. Now that's going to be hard to understand. I'm not going to go into it too terribly much, but I love science. Science has found not only a neural network in our gut, we all know that, but are you aware that there's like a couple thousand little dendrites, neurons, right in the heart, physically, in the beating physical heart? It's got a piece of a neural network. It's being communicated with all the time. Yep, they found it.
There's I think it's called Heart Math. If you have not checked out Heart Math, make sure that you check out Heart Math, because they do a lot of studies on how it is like an energetic, and the heart is an energetic device, and it helps resonate other resonance in your body. It's really cool.
Greg Braden did a great thing where he pointed out, and it was like, and he pulled up the science on it, and he followed the links, and you can see we found a very tiny neural network that's in our heart. Now, this all connected. We're chemical machines. Biochemical electricity travels throughout our body at the speed of chemical electricity. That's fast. So, it happens really quickly. Lungs, pancreas, prostate, the whole nervous system. That's why it's nervousness. So when it's defined, obviously, you must wait for clarity, not designed to be necessarily spontaneous. Low on the wave is when you're the most creative. That's what we went over last time. So everyone in human design that actually has studied it long enough recognizes low is creative. It's not sad and bad. It's creative. If you like to create things, if you like the word creation, then let yourself be low on your wave, because that's where creation is, rather than it be a fault of someone. You're not a victim of this wave. You're there to be aware. Just to be aware so you can take care of yourself. Scroll on over to the next slide. And so this is where it is. 50% of us have this emotional solar plex center. I would love to see new numbers from Jovian Archive or any of the systems that are taking on charts where you get free charts, and see what their numbers are.
Yeah, what the updated numbers are. Because the more that people are getting their human design done.
Oh, millions and millions are getting their body graphs, not quite knowing what they are. We're on the verge of a great awakening, and this conspiracy is the right time. Conspiracy to awaken. Yeah. And
liberate the individual.
Yep, exactly. So this is just a slide that there they are. These are your gates that are in this body graph. Notice they're in various streams. You can't see the whole thing in its full, but just that's where they are. And if you go to the next slide, we'll start detailing these fears, because these ones grip us. Oh, they're awful. Solar plex fears, starting with gate 30. Nervousness about fate. The fear of fate, because 30 is the clinging fire. It just wants to cling to the feeling. And let me get to the solar plex one. I'm gonna read. Every one of these deserves to be read out. So gate 30, the clinging fire, the gate of feelings. It's the sphere of the fates that will be denied. What is it we just clung to? We get a sudden feeling. It's an urge. It's a desire. We want it. And then the fates are going to get in the way and take it away from us. So it's the fear of actual fate itself. Now, it's hard to put that into words for the being while they're experiencing it, but it produces a very powerful wave. It's fueled by desire. The desire is to feel deeply. Nervousness about what might or might not happen. It's just worded perfectly. Nervousness about what might or might. If it might not happen, what's going to stop it? The fates. The fates are going to get in the way. So nervousness over the fear of fate and the fates. And it seems like cosmic speak, but it's just fear that something's going to get in the way, that you won't get your way. And later you'll rationalize that as fate, essentially. So we keynoted it with fate. But it's a practical term, fear of something will get in the way of you getting your desire fulfilled from the feeling you just had. Gate 55, nervousness about emptiness, the fear of emptiness, emotional emptiness, the lack of abundance. It's not abundant. My spirit feels empty. Boom, down on an emotional wave you go. And now no longer are you doing what the last slide pointed out. It's just having that be an awareness you're aware of. And you're just stuck in emptiness rather than recognizing it as creative. Gate 55s have the hardest time recognizing creativity, or they have the easiest time if they've gotten used to it. If they started to see it, when Jake starts to see it more and more, he'll actually have an easy time with it. I mean, it'll become easier and easier, and that's the goal. So 55 is in that individual stream. This is the gate that's under mutation. It's the solar plex that's waking up in us, in humanity. If we let our mind and personality get a hold of that and start making up reasons for all of this stuff and thinks that its measurements are what's true outside of our inner authority, then outside of our authority and our decision-making process, then we're screwed. We're going to be in big trouble. These gates are all, and the last one, which are all under pressure, nervousness, the nervousness over nature, gate 49. Gate 49 is called the gate of revolution, the gate of principles. These are tribal, supportive, sensitive principles, the principles of who can approach or not, the principles of will I enter this bond or not. Do these principles suffice for me? Are they going to take care of the tribe? Do I feel sensitive to this or not? Do I support this or not? Keynoted with support. And it's the sphere of nature. And the wave that either accepts or rejects the principles of the others. It's based on the needs of the tribe. It's nervousness about rejection. It's got its own fear of rejection. And it's unpredictability of the consequences of what will happen if I reject this. So it's literally of nature. I'm afraid if I don't accept this bargain and don't enter into this relationship, I won't last the winter. Fear of nature. I won't be able to eat tomorrow. I better do this. Now suddenly you're making a decision that's not you. The mind is holding on to this fear over all of time, and it thinks it's in charge, and you're not listening to your responsive nature. You're not listening to the chemistry that is your spleen, giving you immediate, no good. Whatever it is that is your decision-making authority, you're not listening to it anymore. And we're just listening to mind and its fears. Fear of nature. It's going to be too cold. We're going to freeze to death. Fear of nature. All of these three gates, they're on the bottom. If you scroll back a slide, they're on the bottom of the solar plex, 30, 55, 49. That means right below it is the root center. So these gates are all under pressure. The root is trying to pressure these things to take place. So you can't get around it. You can go back. You can't stop them. There's an adrenalized pressure below it, making it happen. There's no stopping it. So get used to it. I'm going to skip gate 6 and go to the top ones, 37, 22, and 36. So 37, this nervousness about tradition. And it's the fear of tradition, the fear of the loss of tradition. If 49 right below it was giving it the principles, after those principles are established and it happened to be the right set of things, traditions arise. And 37 is the gate of friendliness. 37 says, I'm part of the tribal wave, and it wants to be the family. It's the gate of the family, the gate of friendship, and it generates bargains based on the principles of the tribe that were given by gate 49. Nervousness about the possibility of having to take on traditional roles or having to ditch a tradition. Just nervousness about tradition. What if the tradition sucks? I'm nervous about having to change it. I got so used to the old tradition. What if the tradition is great? I'm nervous that these new kids are not following the old tradition. I'm nervous we're losing the tradition, and we're having abundant fear over tradition here in the Western world. Our tradition of freedom is currently being taken away. That's a tradition of ours. A tradition would be we all have guns. A tradition would be, you name it, pick a tradition. I'm picking political ones because I'm a political beast and they can all go, F off. But so pick a tradition, and it's the fear that you'll either lose it because you want to keep it, or the fear that you'll have to take it on but you don't want to.
I know some people that are all about traditions. I'm not much of a tradition person. I come from a family though that thinks we have to keep things a certain way because it's tradition.
It's tradition. It has its value. It's very valuable stuff. Traditions are wicked valuable. You know what I mean? It's just that the individual spirit has to feel abundant and full within the tradition, or that individual cannot be held to the tradition. That's all there is to it. You know, and they still have to be loved. They're part of the family. Everyone eats at the table, except me when I was growing up. Because my mother noticed the kid needs to eat alone. And she was right. Go figure. So 22 is this nervousness about silence. It's this fear that you're not going to hear anything. 22 is, and 55, they go together. They're lit up with the desire, the want and the need. Yes, you do, Jen. And the need to hear the intimacy and the music. The music's got to play just right. Oh, I got to hear the things I'm going to hear. I'm not hearing what I need to hear. I'm afraid that they're never going to say what I need to hear. And suddenly you don't want to hear it and no one's saying anything. And now you're just afraid of abject silence. It's like this fear that there's nothing to hear. There's just nothing worth hearing. It's both the melancholy and the fear and the emotional wave. We wonder why there's eating disorders in this stream of awareness, going from 39, the provocateur, all the way up to gate 12 in the throat center. Very individual, very melancholic, emotional, with its fears. And this is the fear of too much silence, the fear of the wrong silence. I'll read out what 22 is. It's such a glorious gate. It's called grace. It's the grace to listen. So it doesn't mind listening. Gate 22 will listen, and it's part of the cross of rulership. Humans are designed to have rulership amongst them, but they're designed to have the grace to listen. Our rulers are not acting that out.
No,
they're all fucking fired because they're not acting it out. It's called grace. They should look it up. The gate of openness, the openness to hearing the other, and the fear that they're not going to hear what they need to hear. The fear of silence, it's openness to listening. When the mood is uncertain, that anyone will even listen to what you are that you're thinking. It's uncertain that anyone will listen to you or that there's anything worthwhile to listen to. It's this uncertainty over all of that. If you're got individual definition, it's riddled with uncertainty. The individual never knows. Think about it. The individual's got a frequency that is like the spleen. It's a pulse. It comes and it goes. It's there and then it's not. That's the frequency of the individual. Their pulse, there and it's not. Yet the frequency of the solar plex spheres are up and down in a wave. So look at all these things mix matching. We've got a rich tapestry of consciousness we're able to advance as soon as we get a handle on not mentally knowing all of these things, but going through the process of mentally hearing them and then experiencing them. Experiencing is the seeing. That's the killing.
And what is fear? The acronym, I think, is what the word is. What fear is? False expectations appearing real.
Appearing real. Mm-hmm. False expectations. Yes.
False expectations appearing real. You can fuck everything and run, or face everything and rise.
Right. Face everything and rise. Yeah. So nervousness over silence. Nervousness. That's what the solar plex gives us in this emotional wave. Nervousness. And it's a gut nervousness because that's where it all is. It's in our gut. And, and suddenly, now if you don't know that to be low on a wave is a creative space where you get smart, that's where you get strong, that's where you got smarter, that's where you become intelligent, then you're going to stay down on that wave and it's going to drive you crazy. You're going to think, you might kill yourself. A lot of things happen here. The solar plex center, we got to get used to it, guys. The last one, nervousness over inadequacy. And notice it's very similar to the one on the spleen because all of these things mirror each other between the spleen and the solar plex. That's why.
What gate was that on the spleen?
48.
48. Okay.
Yeah. So they mirror each other. You'll see that they mirror each other. They come in, they come in, they come in. They keep mirroring each other from the spleen and the solar plex. They have their mirrors. And they're meant to do that so that we can have this trinary 3-part awareness that's like a vortex constantly making us smarter. And this nervousness over inadequacy is this fear of not knowing that you'll have fear that the experience will never take place. Fear that gate 30's nervousness about fate is going to actually come true and suddenly you'll never get the experience. And so it's because you're inadequate, because you weren't good enough, because emotionally you're just not going to have it. And suddenly you go way down on a wave. Or if you get the experience, you go way up on your wave. And it's exciting. It's thrilling.
I have this one. This one's a bitch to get over.
Yeah, I have gate 36. I have it in it's part of my Carnation Cross. So it's my unconscious design earth. And is it okay if I just share something about this?
Go.
This gate can be such a biatch because it's like a fear of new experiences. So for me, gate 36, it's like if I get put on the spot and I don't have experience with that thing, like insane anxiety, like sweating profusely.
Yeah.
And I hate it. Like I hate not feeling confident. But this is why I love human design, because I started teaching yoga to little kids at my school. And here it's just like teaching little kids, like, why would I have all this anxiety about that? You know? But then now that I know my human design, I'm like, oh, this is just gate 36, you know, like
crisis.
Yeah. And so it felt like a crisis because I'd never done this thing before. And so, but then I almost just have to go through it. And then I'm like, oh, why was I freaking out about that? Like, I can't believe I was stressing myself out over this thing. And so now I can do it just fine. And I love it. And I don't stress out at all. But I just noticed that now I have to just be like, oh, like that's that gate 36. Like stop having anxiety about this. You know, it's just that chemistry in because it's in my red, you know, on the design side.
So it shows up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I've kind of just had to accept that about myself, that it's like I'm going to feel anxiety with new things because it makes me feel inadequate. But I know once I go through it, then the anxiety goes away. So I just have to tell myself that it's like, just go experience it and just kind of release the anxiety, have that awareness that I'm going to kind of run into this when I'm going through new experiences. So anyways, yeah, I don't know. That's just how 36 is hard because it makes me very anxious about new things, new experiences, or I had like teach something. Like I used to teach in my church. I was a teacher and I'm not kidding. I was like sweating profusely like before, during, and after teaching a lesson about something. And so just reading this about my chart, it was just so validating because I was like, why am I such an anxiety basket case? But then everyone else seems to be just fine, going through these same experiences. And so anyways, I feel like I'm rambling on about this gate. I just sometimes I get frustrated with this gate. What was that?
Let me dovetail off of that, Savannah. Okay. Because that nervousness about inadequacy and that fear, let me read what is the gate. Gate 36, the old I Ching called it the darkening of the light. The darkening of the light, and its mirror, all these gates, all these awarenesses have mirrors. Its mirror is 48 in the spleen, and its mirror in the ajna is something you have, Jennifer, and I don't have. It's gate 11.
Yep.
Darkness. And this is the darkening of the light. It's this fear that you're inadequate, you don't have the experience, you're going to fail. You don't know. And it's this intense emotional nervousness that what Savannah was pointing to, Savannah, is that me telling it to you in the beginning when we were talking about some of this stuff, it's good, but it wasn't until you kept seeing it that the experience of that started to make it easier.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't tell it to you and have it be the end of the process. You got to physically experience it. Mm-hmm. And it might not even mean you sweat any less at first or whatever. And it might not mean at first, especially that you don't have the anxiety going in, but you keep seeing it. And then pretty soon, suddenly you get called, your spirit feels full, you walk in, you forgot to be nervous. That's what happens. Oh, I forgot to be, I forgot to be scared. I forgot to be nervous. I forgot to whatever. I very often, I forgot to have anxiety. Oops. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah. Oh, were you going to say something, Jen?
I was going to say it triggers the investigator in me because I get the anxiety. I have to know. And I've had this conversation with Dan before. And my manifester, the anger comes up. So I get really mad and angry because I don't know, which triggers the inadequacy. So I need to go investigate before I do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a great gate of being able to understand if you don't know, allow the not knowing. Maybe don't marshal forward in that moment. Don't let someone put you under peer pressure to do something that you don't feel in the mood to do in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Decision making. So fears don't make decisions. Fears inform intelligence. And if let's go full screen here, or actually,
I think that's the last of the slides, so we can definitely go full screen.
What I was gonna say is I have how many total fear gates are there? I think 20. I have like 12 out of the 20.
Yeah, I got a bunch.
I have a ton, and it makes sense because I've always been like a worrier. Like, I mean, you can ask my husband. I'm like the biggest like worrier, like just super anxious, this anxious, nervous person. And so learning all of this about my human design, I'm like, oh, like that's why I'm like this and why some other people might not be as like anxious and nervous. Like I used to annoy my doctor, like when I was pregnant, because I would always just go into him and I'm like, all these like nervous fears coming out. And he's just like, oh my gosh, you know, so just learning this about myself is just, I feel like it's very empowering, and I feel like it takes away the anxiousness and just helps me to just be more
in the right place. It helps put it in the right place. It helps compartmentalize this to where suddenly we're not making decisions. Human design is here to help us navigate. Our primary navigational tool is decision making. If our mind is in charge, we're not deciding as ourselves. If we allow our authorities to be in charge, mind does what it does, and it helps measure the measurements needed to implement the decision.
But it also makes me think of like so many people are struggling with anxiety nowadays, and they're taking all these medications. And sometimes I'm like, man, if these people just knew their design and their human design chart, like they would know how to like manage it in a like healthy, correct way. And
a lot less medication, a lot less medication out there.
Or the medications have side effects, you know. So anyway,
more nervousness, more anxiety, more not knowing, and more fear.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, Savannah, because we're about to wrap up this show, and I did want to add this. You know, I follow a lot in the astrology, and all of the planets do affect all these things that are going on. And I think this was an excellent video to hit on because energetic wise, it's going to stir up a lot of these emotions in these fear gates. And a lot of people, you said it, are not aware, and they end up taking medication. They're not focusing on what it is. They don't even know what's going on in their head, the thoughts, all that stuff. It's a being very disconnected. So it's important that you do bring awareness to what the fear is playing, not, attach yourself to it in the first place. Become the observer. Definitely get a session with Dan. And let's start integrating this stuff, because that's the whole reason we are doing what we're doing, because the energy, especially in 2022 and moving forward, it's going to amplify those fears.
Yeah.
Especially here.
Yes.
And that is exactly why I played the Synctuition, because meditation, and I have a defined head. It took a while for me to actually get into the meditation. Synctuition is one of the things that absolutely helped. But it's knowing that you are not your thoughts, guys. It's just pay the scrolling banner. Don't pay attention to too much what's scrolling. Just observe and don't attach emotionally to it.
Quite literally, fear drives intelligence.
Fear drives intelligence.
It drives our emotional intelligence, our survival intelligence, our mental conceptual intelligence. Fear drives intelligence, and that's why we're such smart little, creatures. That's why we're so good at stuff. We've just got to get used to the rest of it. We're a 9-center being. We're here to wake up into communion. We're not here to kill each other and starve each other out. And the collective needs to get taken down. We need to take those guys down.
Yes.
By rising ourselves up. They can't have me.
Liberating the individual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you going to join the conspiracy to awaken, guys?
Yep.
All right.
And
do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm done.
All right. I think it was an excellent show. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. As always, you know what to do. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow us, hit that button, give us a thumbs up. It does help the show. If you are interested in signing up or checking out Synctuition, they do have a free trial. Again, I highly recommend it. It is synchronized meditation. If you don't know what that is, research the Gateway Experience. The Army actually did extensive research in what synchronized meditation is, and it will get you in tune with your avatar. But Synctuition is a great meditation to get started. Tune in on Wednesday night. We don't know exactly whose design we will be doing, but we'll probably dig up one of the key villains that is playing in our world stage.
Well, are we going to keep doing the villains?
I think we should. We haven't done who's currently running our country yet. I think it's important that we may tap onto
Mr. Irrelevant.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Is that what you're talking about?
Maybe.
Joe Irrelevancy? I don't think he's running anything.
No, he's not running anything. Not even his own avatar. Maybe that will come up in his human design.
Yeah. No, we could do that, but we'll figure out something.
We don't know just yet, but we will definitely post it. For those of you who are tuning in, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. As always, book a session with Dan if you haven't already. That way you can start to awaken your human design, and we can all start being glitches in the matrix. Don't feed the fears, and we'll see you next time, guys.
See you next time.